What can I do for you, madam?
But Oscar, it's me, Kate Walker.
Correct. Your name is indeed Kate Walker.
Annoying, but absolutely lovely. And this scene pretty much defines the characters in Syberia. Belgian artist Benoit Sokal and French studio Microids created this wonderfully bizarre universe where automatons linger around every corner. But let's step back a notch. So, Syberia first released on PC back in 2002, followed by ports to PS2, Xbox, and many other platforms. Now, over 2 decades later, did Syberia age like a good French wine? Or wasn't this juice worth a squeeze? Well, let's find out. And with this, let's jump right into this first installment. And story is first. The early 2000s, present day. Our protagonist arrives in Valadilene, a small picturesque village at the backwaters of the French Alps. And the game starts with a jolly scene. A parade with a weird one-man marching band. It seems like someone of importance recently died and they are escorting the body to the graveyard. They, you say? Well, automatons that is. So, after this bizarre situation, our main character arrives at the hotel and quickly skips through a flyer that talks about the village, its history, and of course introduces these weird automatons that were part of the intro. Actually, a really clever and organic introduction, since these flyers actually do lie around everywhere at hotel lobbies. Well, mostly to introduce a local cash grabs. What's next? Checking in. In a good old European fashion, she doesn't need to ID herself, but since she's kinda chatty, we find out that her
Company should have made a reservation in the name of Walker. The company is Marson and Lormont Associates. The name is Kate Walker.
So yeah, after being like 3 minutes into the game, we already know the setting, the protagonist, and the purpose of the game. And with that, if you don't want any spoilers, go to here. Okay, Kate Walker is the name. And she's a lawyer sent from New York to wrap up the acquisition of Aralbad Manufacturing. That's a factory which manufactures these automatons seen in the intro. And this is not just any factory, no. This factory has a huge legacy.
People came from all over the world to buy Vorarlberg automatons.
So this American megacorp, the Universal Toy Company, yeah, very innovative name. So anyway, they want to flex their muscles and take over Europe or so. And it's Kate's job to seal the deal. But with this being a game, it would be way too easy to find the owner and just get his signature.
It's a day of mourning. Today is the funeral of Miss Anna.
Okay, that explains the parade, and well, that's kind of a problem. Since Anna was the rightful owner of the factory.
Anna Vorarlberg is dead?
Luckily, and to keep things moving, the devs let her employer send a fax. Yep, such things existed in the 2000s. So she can take this to the notary, Metro Falter, to inform him that she is the legal representative of the law firm. Weird, I mean, shouldn't that be known by now? Or did Anna just negotiate everything on her own? Well, no problem. I mean, yeah, the owner is dead. But the notary would certainly be able to put his sweet seal on the deal, right? I mean, Kate's client is in a hurry and she needs to be
Back in New York the day after tomorrow, Metro Alphoter.
Well, this journey of hers will take a little longer than just a couple of days. But let's not jump the gun here. So, what no one knew, at least no American, is that there is an heir.
Miss Walker, believe me, I was more surprised than you are. Anna Vorarlberg sent me a letter 2 days before she died.
Hans Vorarlberg, Anna's brother. And to conveniently bring the plot forward, he wrote a letter. Okay, at this point, let's get into the backstory. And most of this is explained in Anna's diary, which our unlawful lawyer nicks from her home after breaking in, that is. So, back in 1930, Anna and Hans' mom had died. And one day our happy Sips ventured out to explore a cave. In there, they found ancient wall paintings of mammoths, as well as a small toy mammoth that our brat Hans was very eager to get. He climbed up, fell down, and right into a coma. After waking up, Hans did not seem to recover all his abilities and stayed mentally slow. Even time and experts wouldn't heal him. So one day his father took him to the family's factory, and from then on, every single day. Since he found out that Hans is everything but slow, he simply put an engineering genius, started to invent automatons and completely redesign the factory. 7 years later, in 1937, sales thrived, and all this thanks to an unusual and extremely gifted little brat. Then, in 1938, Hans turned 18 and he decided that he wants to venture out again, to find the mammoths. After all this time, this tragic event seemed to have burned itself into his brain. Anyway, his father disagrees, which did not stop Hans from leaving. His old man was so pissed that
He preferred to think him dead and make everybody else believe this too.
he even asked the local priest to declare him dead without even letting him see the body. Hans' funeral was
But a sordid charade dreamt up by our father.
Luckily, Anna and Hans established a secret form of communication through punched cylinders that I guess were delivered by the Secret Service or so. Anyway, Hans would continue to develop automatons that Anna would produce in the factory, therefore keeping the factory and the Vorarlberg family well and alive. But after Hans had left, their father became more and more depressed, and Anna started to
Take care of everything for him. Housework, factory paperwork, the workforce, clients, everything.
The old man died and World War II came. No one had the need for automatons any longer, and the Vorarlberg factory was financially embarrassed. Therefore the intention to sell and the backstory for Kate's journey to the east. Okay, back to the present day. Since Hans Vorarlberg is still alive, he's the
Sole and rightful heir of our factory.
Alright, easy peasy. Katie just has to find Hans, get his signature, and she can go back to her cozy New York City life. Yep, well, not that easy.
That Hans Vorarlberg is somewhere in Syberia.
Well, who would have thought? And so Kate Walker's journey begins. So, there's a body lying in the town cemetery and a ghost in Syberia. Two mysteries that need to be solved. And we wouldn't want it any other way. The first mystery is just around the corner. The second one is in a place far, far away. But Kate has to solve both if she wants to make her head honcho happy. Mission 1. Back from the dead. So Kitty Kate heads over to the local cemetery, does a little puzzling and engages the mechanism which opens a Vorarlberg tomb. After some classy tomb raiding, she finds, well, nothing. There is no body inside the coffin. Mission 2. On the road again. Since Hans is somewhere in Syberia, Kate has to find a way to trace back his steps. She heads over to the Vorarlberg factory where she meets one of Hans' automatons, like crucified. And let me tell you here already that this will be a love-hate relationship between the two. But more to that in the character section.
I am Model XZ2000. My common name is Oscar. I represent the technological zenith of this factory's production. I have been designed to drive a locomotive.
For the automaton train which is at the station of the very Vorarlberg factory. Very convenient. I mean, yeah, what better way to follow Hans than in a locomotive that he himself designed, right? In order to get it going, Kate needs to manufacture Oscar's legs and wind up the train. Yep, did I forget to mention that all automatons are mechanical beings? Well, anyway, they use some spring-propelled mechanisms as source of power. So, the train leaves the station. Kate is on her way. And like with any decent train ride, there are several stops along the way. In this case, they actually serve a purpose because the train needs some winding up every now and then to keep moving.
Welcome to Backtracking, miss.
Unfortunately for Oscar,
The atmospheric humidity is detrimental to my sophisticated wheel workings.
What a great excuse to let Kate do all the heavy lifting. The problem is that the train stopped before they actually reached the winding station. So Barockstadt is a university but looks way cooler. It is more of a mix of a museum and an aviary / botanic garden to study specimens in real life. Kate is being summoned to see the rectors, which are a bunch of 3 funny little men that are lovely annoying since they say all the exact same thing 3 times. So they are concerned about the train blocking the station.
The rules do clearly state that trains are meant to come and go and not remain stationary at a platform.
Trains should first stop, then subsequently leave. That is the rule.
Well, great. At least everyone here is on the same page. But the rectors are too busy to help any.
Here we are, busy chatting, and look at the clock. It's tea time.
While at the university, Kate meets Professor Cornelius Pons. He confirms that Hans was here, round about 50 years, give or take.
Such an extraordinary fellow. So inventive. We shared a passion for mammoths, you know.
So indeed, the train and Oscar are taking Kate on the right path. Just a little catching up to do. Professor Pons is so into mammoths that he holds a lecture about them and about the clan of the Yukols.
The Yukols are a people from the far north about whom very little is known. They live far away, very far away, on the frozen borders of Syberia.
This clan plays a major role in the third game. Anyway, their tradition is connected to the mammoths, which brings them meat, skin, fat and ivory. He also mentions a legend that a herd of mammoths has survived on an island
For more than 120 centuries by the Yukols' tender care. And the island on which the pachyderms are said to live is called Syberia.
Well, and quite literally the name of the game. So this must be Hans' final destination, right? Back to the problem at hand. Moving the train. Luckily, there's a ship that can tow it to reach the winding station. So Kate operates the locks, the ship tows the train, some winding happens, and, well, unfortunately there's a huge wall blocking the way, which apparently keeps everyone safe from the Eastern Territories. Hey, no big deal for a lawyer.
Just a little glass. I assure you, it is excellent.
Well, perhaps just a drop.
In true business fashion, she gets the local authorities drunk and convinces them to open the gate. The train is back on track. Next stop, Komkolsgrad. An old decommissioned Soviet mine, and of course...
The air here is so polluted that I could not possibly risk leaving the locomotive. My joints might corrode irreparably.
Yep, what a surprise. Lazy Bones Oscar shies away from any kind of work. Again. So it is up to Kate to wind up the train. Again. While doing her chores, Kate finds another one of those phonograph cylinders, which is proof that Hans was here. His
Automaton creations are taking the place of workers for all those menial jobs.
Okay, the train is ready to depart, but that would be too easy, wouldn't it?
My God, Oscar! Oscar, talk to me!
So Microids really put their brains together and created a great and consistent subplot.
Why, it is absolutely inadmissible, intolerable, and indescribable. I have been attacked.
Oscar has been attacked and its hands have been stolen. So Picklock Kate breaks into the mines and meets Sergei Burdin, the director of Komkolsgrad. He assures Kate that he did not steal Oscar's hands.
Only borrowed them for a while.
Well, that's also a point of view, I guess. Anyway, these hands, they are extraordinary. And Sergei needs them to relive a concert of his idol Helena Romansky for one last time. He's her biggest fan, and that's where Kate comes into play. So unfortunately, Helena left after her last and only gig at the mines, like decades ago. Well, obviously. So it is up to our Sherlock Kate to do some digging. Fortunately for her, Sergei is not only a fan, no, he's more of a fanatic diehard and has built a sanctuary for Helena. So Kate digs through some old newspaper articles and finds out that she was in some sort of relationship with a musician called Frank. Frank? Wait a sec. It so happened that already from Valadilene on, Kate got several calls from her mom talking about her new Casanova.
Frank Malkovich, the Russian opera singer.
So as a disrespectful daughter that she is, Kate calls her mom in the middle of the night to find out from Frank the Bang that Helena is crashing in Aralbad, a former luxury Russian spa for the rich and famous. But how to get there? Without the train and all? Well, I'm glad you asked. So, luckily there's an old cosmodrome conveniently placed right beside the mines, with an airship, with an automaton pilot. What a coincidence. So, Katie gets it ready and leaves for Aralbad. Once there, she takes an unauthorized peek at the hotel's guestbook to find out that Hans was here. From 1981 to 85 to be precise. We are getting closer. And after finding Helena Romansky, it becomes clear that they had something going on.
I might see Hans again. I have dreamed so long of meeting my dearest sweetheart again.
Anyway, Kate resorts to her proven lawyer tactics, mixes her some drinks, which immediately convinces Helena to tag along and exchange her luxurious spa for the warmth and comfort of a Soviet mine. Not relevant for the story of this installment, but quite important for the series overall. So, in between there were a couple of phone calls in which Kate had some arguments with her future mate Dan, and with Olivia, her best friend. These two decided to take the opportunity of different zip codes and have some extracurricular activity. But Kate has more important things on her mind. She needs to keep the plot going after all. So she doesn't seem to care too much about it. And this is a moment where it becomes obvious that Kate evolved since the beginning of the game. From being a superficial New York city girl to starting to have deeper thoughts and wanting to find meaning in life. So she keeps it short and sweet.
Look, don't bust a gut over it.
Back to Comcalsgrad with Helena Romansky. Helena sings, gets trapped, Kate saves the day, and they all escape in an action-packed train scene. The journey continues. Okay, this whole subplot in Comcalsgrad/Aralbad is actually much more complex with some funny situations. But hey, this section here is only to spoil the story and you should play the game for yourself to find out the rest. On to the last location, Aralbad. Again. So the raids lead back to our spa, which kind of makes sense since that seems to be the last known location of Hans, back in the 80s. Kate winds up the train and the hotel clerk arrives, pushing her to the reception area to claim a package that just arrived. Of a mammoth automaton. Okay? How did the package get here?
The plane with the hotel supplies has arrived. Maybe you should take a walk outside.
As the obedient gamer that I am, I of course guided our Katie outside.
Mr. Vorarlberg? Hans Vorarlberg?
Wow, now that was unexpected. So the story loop finally closes. Anna was supposed to finish manufacturing the train and send Oscar on his way to pick up Hans in Aralbad, so that Hans can continue his journey in search of the legendary island of Syberia, the last suspected residence of the mammoths. But what about Kate now, our tour guide facilitator? So Hans signs a contract to sell the Vorarlberg factory and invites her to tag along.
Are you coming on the train too, Kate Walker?
Well, Kate prefers to go back to her cozy, dozy New York lifestyle as a dull lawyer with a dumbass boss and a broken relationship, or does she? Well, I guess this trip, all the breaking in and stealing, made her rethink her life. She turns around and starts to run faster than our manual controls would ever allow. So, during this adventure, Kate not only accomplishes her mission, no. She also slowly changed and evolved from location to location. Anyway, she reaches a train and jumps onto it at the very last second. And that's it. The end. Yep, a cliffhanger. But no worries. The second game picks up exactly where this one leaves us. And hey, it will be my next video. But for now, let's look at Syberia's world next. And this is the world of late Benoit Sokal, a Belgian comic artist and of course game developer. In this first installment you explore 4 locations. Valadilene. The village in the French Alps really shows off Sokal's beautiful art style. A picturesque setting with mixed-in mechanical automatons that blend in perfectly. Everything presented with slightly faded colors, giving out a melancholic vibe. Next is Backtracking, a university which reminds me more of a night at the museum kind of things, with an aviary attached to it that gives off Amazon vibes rather than being a boring institute of knowledge. Here you also come across some references of the 1999 released Amazon, which is set in the same universe as Syberia. Komkolsgrad, an old industrial Soviet city/mining operation, with even more faded colors and a feeling of it being covered in smog. And that's not all. Of course, the devs attached a state-of-the-art Russian cosmodrome to it. And lastly, Aralbad, the luxurious spa for the rich and famous. While it has been very well maintained on the inside, the environment provides this decaying and slightly post-apocalyptic feel to it. There you have it. Every location leans on reality, but then again provides something special, interesting, and worth exploring. And everywhere you go, the world is full of these robots.
Be careful what you say. Vorarlberg automatons are not robots.
These go hand in hand with the game mechanics since, yeah, who would have guessed, they provide the perfect setup for puzzles. For example, to open a door, you don't just ring the bell and someone opens, no. You use an automaton that is connected to some sort of binoculars to transfer the image inside and to then open the door for you. It's a nice concept that adds to the special atmosphere of the game. And the greatest of all automatons is of course Model XZ2000, codename Oscar. And this brings us to characters. And let's start right away with this lovely sidekick. He's adorable and lovely. Well, until he isn't anymore. You will definitely establish some kind of love-hate relationship to him. Although he's a mechanical being, he is the definition of being digital. At times he makes Kate's life absolutely miserable by throwing her into backtracking hell. And these situations are definitely something that shape this game. Let me give you an example from the beginning of the game, and therefore we won't dive too deep into spoiler territory. So, Kate finds this mechanical version of Jesus crucified in the Vorarlberg factory.
That looks broken.
And as a good Christian that she is, well, that and that she actually needs him to operate the train, she can't just ignore him, but actually needs to save him. Problem: he isn't finished. He has no legs. But hey, this is a factory, right? So it's up to our savior Kate and us to, well, save the day. So switch on the power and load the material. So far, so good. And here's where it gets bloody annoying. You have to operate this console to manufacture his legs, then go pick them up and deliver them to Oscar.
Here are your feet, Oscar. I hope I haven't made a mistake.
These feet are incorrect, Kate Walker.
No shit. Back to the console and repeat.
These feet are incorrect, Kate Walker.
I simply could not find a logical solution to make the right legs.
These feet are incorrect, Kate Walker.
And every single try takes like 2 minutes.
These feet are incorrect, Kate Walker.
It took me 4 or 5 tries, and in the end, the feet look exactly the same. But hey, at least you get a different cinematic once you manufacture the right feet, so you know that they are the right ones. So this was the frustrating part of the relationship. Everything else is just annoying. Well, for Oscar's bestie Kate, that is. For me, the rest was a lot of fun. And is part of what makes Syberia so special. The legs are only the beginning. Every sane mind would think, okay, legs done, automaton repaired, we can go on our well-deserved train ride, right?
I must find my train. Its departure is imminent.
Yeah, not here. Arriving at the train...
Ready when you are.
Your ticket, please?
What the hell? She's the only passenger. And the only reason for Oscar to exist is to operate this train. Anyway, Oscar is more German than most Germans and won't leave without seeing a ticket. He is at least helpful and points us in the right direction.
You are in luck. The ticket office must be open now.
So, well, we have to follow protocol and head over there.
But it's you?
What can I do for you, madam?
Vorarlberg Factory. Vorarlberg. Sounds German, doesn't it? Whatever. Oscar finally seems to cooperate and sells her the ticket and even gives her the authorization form for the release of the train. Finally, back to the train. Kate hands over the ticket and the authorization form and...
It has not been signed, Kate Walker.
Okay, let's just play along. Run over to the notary at literally the other side of town, and since no one is around, our legally brunette and unlawful lawyer decides to shorten the process and simply self-approve the whole thing. And then back to the train, across town, again.
This is your stupid train release ratification, Oscar.
Now, everything should be good, right? Right?
I fear we have omitted to wind up the locomotive springs.
And of course, Tinhead Oscar has
no notion of how to implement this function, Kate Walker.
So, Kate moves out, winds up the locomotive, gives Oscar the ticket and...
Please, return to your seat and we can leave.
Finally.
The train is finally ready to leave. Finally. This is a great example of the quirky and funny characters that populate the world of Syberia. And if you now think that this is all garbage, well then Syberia just isn't the game for you. So, the main two characters are our overly German sidekick ZX2000 and of course Kate Walker, our superficial lawyer from New York, and it is really difficult to forget that name since the devs made sure that Oscar mentions it in every second sentence. And she's a great protagonist since at the beginning of the game she's indeed that spoiled New York City brat that lives an absolutely meaningless and superficial life. But with every step of her journey, she changes and evolves a bit. She starts to question her life and redirect her priorities. So it's not only the story that keeps pushing you forward, but also to see how Kate develops. And these characters from her previous life show up in phone calls, like Kate's boss, Marson, and let me tell you, one ass of a boss.
Mrs. Vorarlberg is dead.
That's most unfortunate.
Someone died and he couldn't care less but wants business to happen. Or Dan, Kate's BF. He's like super self-centered, doesn't listen at all and loves hearing himself talk. A real dickhead.
I hope the flight from Paris won't be delayed. We're expected to Goldberg's about 8 o'clock.
And Kate's mom, she's basically the female form of Dan. So the further she's into her adventure, the less Kate pays attention to these calls, which underlines her development. And of course there are many other quirky characters that she meets throughout her journey, like the rectors or the colonel.
Captain, miss.
Who is guarding the wall. Or the drunk and funny Russian cosmonaut. Is the game always politically correct? Yeah, that's a definite no.
Are female comrades revolting or what? Oh, trouble on its way. Bottoms up! Power to the babushkas!
But it does this in a fun and adorable way, and it's really hard to criticize the devs for it. There's also really no villain in this story, well, except for that Sergei guy, but he's not much of a threat anyway. The game is really about Kate's story and doesn't need a powerful villain. So the characters are great and they show some development. The unusual story is set in a beautifully drawn world. And with that, story, world and characters deserve an 8.8 out of 10. Although the game ends in a cliffhanger and really only tells the first part of Kate's journey, it still leaves a feeling of satisfaction and completeness. Yeah, the story is not finished, but the character development is, well, kind of. And as mentioned earlier, the characters, Oscar and other simpler automatons, are also the ones that represent the puzzles. And with this, let's have a look at the gameplay, and mechanics are first. But before we dig in, let's head over to the settings menu. Here you can adjust the audio levels, and I suggest to reduce the music by just a tad. Otherwise, it can be difficult to hear the voices during some of the scenes.
Unfortunately not, Miss Walker. I have told you as much as I know.
Here you can also decide for the control options. Yep, I'm playing on the Switch. But more to that in the final thoughts section at the end of this video. You can select between several languages and display option, as well as activate or deactivate help icons. Well, for a handheld mode anyway, which makes sense because of the smaller screen size. You also get a little instructions booklet, which makes sense since even the physical copy does not come with a printed one anymore. Yeah, it sucks. But my only real complaint here is that you cannot switch off the subtitles. What the hell? These sometimes take up a huge portion of the screen and draw the focus away from the beautiful art design, and I can't switch them off? On the Switch? Well, okay then. So when starting the game, it also gives you an in-game tutorial, and there's a help system that comes up by the press of a button. This wasn't here in the original and is perfect to remind you of tasks that you still need to finish, and also gives you some hints. In terms of game progress, so there are absolutely no manual saves on the Switch. And there are also no different save slots. So take one hell of a lot of care when launching the game, since it jumps into the main menu highlighting New Game and not Continue. If you just willy-nilly click through, oops, your whole progress just went down the toilet. But what can you expect from the mechanics? Well, long dialogue sequences. Very long, like several minutes long, but skippable if you prefer to read. And this underlines the feeling that the game provides. And talking about dialogues, there are absolutely no dialogue choices. So everyone will get the exact same story experience. And yeah, there's also a lot of reading in form of documents. Not mandatory since the main info is also given in dialogues, but it provides more background information. And for me, because of the slow pace, Syberia is always the perfect Christmas game. To take it down a notch and just enjoy a relaxing story. Okay, an old school inventory system. Yeah, you have to go into your inventory, select the item you want to equip, and only then you can use it. No situation-sensitive stuff here. So you do have to gather items and use these here and there, and also have some more traditional logic puzzles which are awesomely integrated into the game by using the automatons. But almost everything is actually pretty easy going. And the overall gameplay loop is explore location, get the train ready, travel, repeat. In terms of mechanics, it is an old-school point-and-click adventure without too many surprises. But how does it control? Well, on PC it is a point-and-click adventure? On consoles, unless you use a touchscreen, you control Kate directly with the analog stick, and this has advantages as well as disadvantages. So, on the one hand, it is not that convenient since you can't just hover around with the mouse. On the other hand, it is actually very convenient, since on these detail screens you can use the directional buttons or analog stick to jump from one point of interest to the next. And also, it is really hard to miss stuff, since an icon appears once you get close to something you can interact with. The controls work fine and are not tank. So our slimish Kate moves in the direction of the camera, not in the direction she is facing. Here the devs could have done a better job since some of the transitions are just abysmal and immediately throw you back to the previous screen. I automatically started to stop during every screen transition to avoid such crap. So overall the mechanics are basic and the controls, well, same. Nothing exciting here. Everything is functional and the gameplay scores an 8.0 out of 10. I mentioned before that Benoit Sokal and his team created a great art style for Syberia. So let's head over and have a look at the presentation. And visuals are first. Syberia has 3D characters in front of 2D backdrops. And this made the game truly beautiful back in the day, and well, the art style is timeless anyway. It actually worked better as a true point-and-click game, but when you port it to consoles and control Kate directly, well, shit like this happens. I would not call it clipping even, more like layer shitting or so. But hey, it's not like this happens all the time. My next point is more of a recent issue, with Kate now looking sharper than ever in 1080p, but the background still being the original renders, she looks kind of out of place. Plus, there is no interaction between the character models and the backdrops, like no reflections or anything like that, other than shadows that work, yeah, okay-ish. As said, this wasn't really an issue back in the day, but is very noticeable nowadays. And also, the aspect ratio of the game is 4:3, well, except for the cutscenes, which are widescreen. And with that, there are different display options. The original ratio with black borders, the original ratio with washed out side panels, and a stretched version which makes everyone just look fatter, and I really don't know why anyone would ever choose this option, I mean unless they plan a cruise on the Axiom or something like that. But hey, the option is here. For me, black side panels, no distractions. Okay, so I said that the character models don't really interact with the backgrounds, which is true, but there are still some small and nice visual effects here. Animated backgrounds like birds flying around, water dripping, or automatons moving. Different 2D layers. Some heavier animations like the material loader or this elevator scene. And water effects. Well, in the end, these are also just animations, I get it. Talking about animations. So this was not a AAA title and it's from 2002. So there was definitely no motion capturing involved. Which makes the walking animations, let's just call them, lovely. And lip syncing. Yeah, no, not here. Well, not anymore at least. Overall, the visuals are beautiful, and due to the art style, they still hold up today. And the game runs very stable. Okay, it crashed once on me, but absolutely no big deal. It autosaves on like every single screen, so I was back to where I left within seconds. But what about the sound? Yep, it's all here. Atmospheric sound effects like rain, thunder, and a boy drawing? Check. Walking sounds for different surfaces like wood, gravel, stone. Check. Fitting ambient sounds and music. Check. Distortion effects when people are on the radio.
I'm ready. Press the launch button.
Check. What is always a nice touch is when they include the different dubs for these older games, and not only to check out how the original version sounds. In Syberia, some languages are fully voiced, like French, English, German or Spanish.
Ma société a dû faire une réservation au nom de Walker.
The company is Marson and Lormont Associates?
Für Kate Walker.
Claro que sí. Su habitación es la número 6. Está en el primer piso.
Gracias.
And others only have subtitles, like Japanese. But even there, all texts in the documents have also been translated. Overall, a nice localization effort. Regarding the dubs, it's just such a pity that Kate sounds like a self-centered, egoistic piece of shit in the English dub, honestly.
Do you think you might want to go and check?
When you check the French original, she has a much nicer voice. Hell, even in German she sounds like a nice person. In German.
Meine Firma hat für mich ein Zimmer reserviert auf den Namen Walker. Anwaltskanzlei Marson and Lormont. Für Kate Walker.
This voice acting changes her character and also influences the mood of the game. So if you have the choice and speak one of the other languages, well, I recommend you playing that way. But then again, Kate is supposed to be that superficial downtown chick at the beginning of the game. So maybe the English dub is the most realistic after all? But considering that this is my Christmas game, yeah, no. All in all, the sound is good and fitting, and the choice of language is here and of course yours to make. So, what about the music? And what can I say? The main Syberia theme is just great, period. And the title screen music? It is very fitting to the feel of the start of the game and the main menu. It has something melancholic to it, perfect to set the tone of a sad and rainy day. Other than that, there's always some fitting music here and there. No, for real now. The different locations have individual tracks and these fit to the environment, like this Russian touch at Komkolsgrad. Looking at the presentation from today's point of view, I have to say that while you can definitely see the age, it is still a beautiful looking and sounding game. And for the time, for being a point-and-click adventure, it was great. And with that, the presentation deserves an 8.3 out of 10. Alright, on to the overall score. Syberia has a really nice story that focuses on the start of Kate Walker's journey. And this is not only a journey that takes her far, far away, but also one that sets her on a mission to find her true self. And this is not in your face, but brought forward by subtle changes from location to location. It is a light story, so don't expect any dark or evil twists or so. The mechanics and controls are basic and do their job at the time when the game was released, as well as nowadays. And while the presentation shows its age here and there, the art style with its slightly faded colors gives out a special vibe, which is supported by great music. Therefore, Syberia gets an overall score of 8.4 out of 10. And to summarize it, Syberia aged like a good French wine, with some dust on the bottle. On to final thoughts. So, Syberia and its direct sequel form one story. If you play this one, well, you might as well play the second game immediately afterwards. It is quite linear and every player will have the same story experience. For most players, this one will be a one and done kind of thing. And as said, I love to come back to it since for me it's a great game for some slow Christmas days. As a nice touch, the Nintendo Switch version includes some concept art that is unlocked here and there. And this brings us to this version of the game. There is no lip syncing in this port, whereas the original version had at least something. The Switch offers more detailed character models, but then some not so story relevant scenes were cut from this version. And some scrolling screens were replaced by static ones. So all in all, the Switch version is a mixed bag. But with better character models, the different dub languages and just the availability on a current system without having to fumble around, well, it has a lot going for it. Alright, that's Syberia in a nutshell. I hope you got a good overview of the game to decide whether this one is for you or isn't. And that's basically all I had to say. Thanks for sticking around till the end, and I hope to see you on my next review of Syberia 2. And as always, if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. It really keeps me motivated. Thanks for watching and see you on the next one.